using a cycle lane around what looked like a rather large obstacle.
Gets his head down, he's in a time trialing position.
This is The Domestics, presented by Blacksheepcycling.
Hello and welcome, wherever you may be listening around the world. Welcome to a brand new podcast. Welcome to The Domestics. Now, if you're into cycling of any description, then this podcast is for you. This series is for you. I'm Mike Tomalaris, and it's so good to have you listening to us about a topic for which we have a deep passion, and that is the passion for the two-wheeled machine. Great to have you along. So, who are we? Who are the Domestics? Let's welcome, first of all, the man who provides us with the water bottles and will keep us refreshed and replenished over the next 3 weeks. It's a big hello to the big banana himself. There's one in Coffs Harbour. Let me tell you, there's one in St Kilda as well. It's Lee Hollywood Turner. Lee.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mike, and welcome Matilda as well. It's great to be here. I'm excited. The tour's starting. What else would you want to be doing? I'm pumped, Mike. I'm heated up.
You know, that's why I invited you on this podcast, because you are big, you are bold, you are colourful, you ride a bike, and you are a personality. We love you. We love you, Hollywood, and looking forward to chatting with you over the next 3 weeks. And with us now live from New Zealand, having spent a bit of time in the Netherlands and only just landed in the, the land of the long white cloud across the ditch, where she's been ruling the roads, not in New Zealand, but in the Netherlands, in races over there. Let's welcome Aussie Pro Champion cyclist Matilda Reynolds. Hi, Matilda.
Thanks so much, Mike. Thanks, Hollywood. Good to see you. I miss you.
Yes,
Tomo,
miss you too.
thanks so much for having me. And yeah, the world probably doesn't need another podcast, but I'm very excited to be talking about cycling, in particular with you guys. So, and the lead into not just the Tour de France, the women's tour, and Girodonna as well. So there's a lot going on, and just excited I get to digress it all with you guys and more.
Digress is the actual word, isn't it? But you two know each other, don't you? Tell us how.
We ride together. We're mates.
In Melbourne?
Yes, Matilda lives probably about not even 5 minutes from me, and we do similar rides together, and yeah, we're mates.
Okay.
Yeah, I was lucky to be included in the famous Melbourne's Finest WhatsApp group.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I still haven't left the chat, even though I haven't been there for
That's all right.
over 7 weeks. I'm hanging on.
No, you're
but
still
yeah,
fine.
no, in Melbourne, and the one of the country's best places for cycling. So very fortunate to, usually be getting a tow by Lee or hearing a bang from the behind.
No.
And
Really?
Matilda does her
rolling him on the
towing.
line.
I thought so.
No, Matilda does her towing. I'm just a flogger yells out. No, she's a proper rider.
Well, look, it's great to have you both, and we're going to make a dynamic trio, I'm sure. I'd like to think, Tills, that you are our team captain, and your
Definitely.
job is to keep us on track and to make sure that we don't steer, that's Hollywood and myself, steer ourselves in the wrong direction. Now, is that a fair deal?
Yeah, I think that's I was brought in the last quarter, so I've been instructed, and happy to take that role.
Well, look, you might be asking, who am I? Well, let me tell you that after 35 years in front of a television camera, some might say that I'm a washed-up broadcaster. I'll ask you, Hollywood, is that true? Don't be too nice.
No, you're definitely not washed up, Mike. You got plenty to offer. One network's loss is our gain.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you there's a lot of fight left in this old dog in the years to come. I'm your host, and looking forward to bringing everything cycling related in The Domestics.
The Domestics by Blacksheepcycling.
So, what is The Domestics? Well, we are aiming to bring a daily podcast over the 3-week period of the Tour de France. At a time when podcasts, really, at this time of the year, are a dime a dozen, most of which focus on the world's biggest bike race, we'll try and do something a little different over the next 3 weeks in this series. Sure, we'll touch on Le Tour, especially during the back end of the race, but we're going to talk about cycling's different layers, and I can assure you The world of cycling has so many different layers. Believe me, of course, there's the sport of cycling. Looking forward to the Tour and the inaugural women's Tour, sponsored by Zwift, immediately following the conclusion of the men's Tour on the 24th of July. But in terms of different layers, there's the recreational side, there's adventure holidays with bikes, there's commuting, gravel riding, mountain biking, family time on two wheels. A lot of families are enjoying time with their young ones as a result of the pandemic, especially. Look, the list just goes on and on and on, and we'll be diving into those different topics, and we'll be talking to a lot of people, a lot of different people across the world of cycling over the next 3 weeks. That's the plan. Let's see if we can deliver. What do you think, Hollywood?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. I'm really excited to talk about the inaugural women's tour as well, like you mentioned. There's lots to unpack there. We've got the resident expert here who's raced against many of those girls, so it's great.
Tills, the Tour de France starts tonight, the men's Tour de France. They've all lined up in Copenhagen, which is probably one of the furthest starting points for a Grand Départ. It's certainly in my time, and I go back to 1991 in terms of working on the Tour, and I've never known it to start so far away from home turf in France. Flat roads around Copenhagen and Denmark. What do you know about the country?
Oh, you've set me up to fail there, Mike. The tour's starting there this year, pretty much. But as you say, I think it's for the tour. Like, I think it's it's thrown in another dynamic in terms of travel for the riders and really starting off what's going to be a very long 3 weeks, even longer. And I think it's sort of going to be probably a bit of a sign for this tour. I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be thrown into this tour, which is already a very stressful situation. I think the heat is going to play an enormous role. I think, Europe's experiencing an enormous heat wave at the moment. And then obviously COVID as well. It's something that we can't run away from. I just experienced it after almost a long period of dodging it. And I think what we saw from the Tour de Suisse, there's still going to be quite a lot of riders that may need to leave the tour or be unwell. And so it's going to be stressful starting so far away from France. But I know Copenhagen is an absolutely stunning location, and I'm sure that the organisers are getting a healthy paycheck to be starting there.
Yeah, it's exciting, isn't it? And very fresh to have the Danes. And the Danes have really, I wouldn't say dominated the world of cycling, but they've certainly been a part of world cycling over the last 20 years, as far as I can remember, in the men's and the women's game. Is that fair comment?
Yeah, well, have you been there, Mike? What should we expect from I know it's fairly flat there. It's always going to be some fast stages. Got the prologue and but yeah, I guess there's, like we saw last year though. We thought it was going to be a pretty quiet start to the stage, and then someone put a sign in the middle of the peloton. So who knows what can happen?
Look, my introduction to Danish cycling was in '96 when Bjarne Riis. Remember that name? Bjarne Riis. He won the Tour that year.
I do.
He was a hard man. He was cold. He was there. I was.
Telecom.
I was there on Autocam, I remember, and it was very cold. He won a stage. I stuck my head in there through the scrum with a microphone and asked some pretty useless questions because I was still very new to the game. This is 1996, and he basically brushed me off. I mean, didn't he know who I was?
I'll tell you what I look forward to a lot with the tour actually as a start is I like to pause and look at new tech, like new shoes or new wheels or new bars or bikes or helmets, glasses. I like to, because a lot of new stuff gets on show at the tour, gets released or pre-released at the tour. So I like to look at some of the equipment and stuff. I'm a bit of a geek like that. If someone's got a new pair of shoes or glasses, I pause the TV and zoom in or whatever. I like to look at that stuff.
Well, we'll talk a lot more about the tour and the women's tour, of course, but just quickly, there's a lot of hype, obviously, around Pogacar, making it 3 tour victories. Roglic, I think he's got a point to prove after... Well, I don't want to use the word fail because no one's a failure at the Tour de France. Just to complete it is an achievement, but he's missed out twice. But I'm really excited about the Aussie, Ben O'Connor, 4th last year, and he could be knocking on the door of a podium. And if all things go well, he could follow in the footsteps of Cadel 11 years on after after Cadell became the first Australian to win the Tour de France. What do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely. Like he got a podium or just off the podium the other week, didn't he? And was it Tour? Which was it? Tour of Swiss or one of those races? He was right up there with the big hitters. So he is the great hope for Australia for sure, and it's exciting to watch him. Like last year was not a fluke. He's back, and he's going to be better this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't condone betting, but I just put a cheeky $5 on Ben O'Connor to make the podium. He's paying about $7 to make the podium at the moment. So it's definitely they're not putting him as a favourite, but yeah, I totally agree. I think he can make the podium and was looking great at Tour de Suisse. But I'm not sure that even though he's obviously shown that he is the strongest there by far, but I think Tajay's luck's going to run out somewhere this tour.
Ooh,
I don't know whether he can get on the podium, and I wouldn't mind actually seeing Vingegaard get up. I think he was dancing on the pedals and waiting for Roglic, but I'm sure he's been told by his team that he has to wait one more year. But I know he's not the strongest time trialist, but if he gets his opportunity, I think he can go all the way.
I think they're going as dual leaders, aren't they? Are they going to? I thought I read somewhere they're going as dual leaders, but Jumbo is like the dream team. They are such a strong team. There's no weak links. They are just strong from rider one to the last rider.
Look, it's frightening. Pogacar, 23.
Yeah, I wonder how Rowan Dennis...
Yeah, I was going to say, Pogacar is just 23 years of age, and he's won 2 already. It's frightening, and this dynasty could continue. He could be the first man to win 6 Tours de France. What were you saying about Rowan Dennis, Tills?
Oh, I was just going to say, I wonder how he feels being left off that Jumbo team. And, he gave a lot of shit to Ineos and said, they're not, and is why he went to Jumbo. But unfortunately, he's been left off the Tour de France team. So I know he had some stomach problems and wasn't very well a few weeks ago.
It's a shame. It's a shame because this course tonight in the time trial, 13 kilometres in distance, would have suited him down to the ground. I was there in Utrecht in the Netherlands in 15 when he became the 7th Australian to win or wear the yellow jersey when he won that prologue time trial on the streets of Utrecht. And this course tonight is not dissimilar to that. So it's a shame that he's not there.
Oh man, I'm so excited! It's tonight. I'm so excited! It's here finally.
Steady on there, Lee.
Oh man, I'm excited.
Just back to Ben O'Connor. I want to ask you, Tills. He came 4th in his first Tour de France last year. I won't say he was an unknown, but as far as the general public is concerned, that's probably a fair statement. How much can you take from experience from doing a big tour like that, winning a mountain stage like he did in the cold, in the wet, just missing out on a place on the podium and backing up a year later? He would have taken a lot out of that performance last year, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he said at Tour de Suisse, he just learnt so much. And even going into the Tour de France, he wasn't really the actual leader of the team that year. So he's certainly defined as the leader this year and will hopefully have a little bit of support around him. I think when we look at the teams, Jumbo certainly has the strongest team by a long shot, but UAE has the strongest rider, and how that plays out. It's weird to think of Ineos as having a potentially weak team going into, we're not even talking anyone from Ineos. Geraint Thomas showed some form recently, but I think Ben O'Connor, as you say, very humble. These Western Australians, they've got to come to Melbourne and get a bit of bang behind them because they're very quiet, very humble, and go about. But they showed, having that calmness for a 3-week tour can really pay off, I think, for him. So, yeah, a little bit of luck's got to be on his side as well, just in particular not having the team around him. But as Pogacar has shown, if you're the strongest rider, then you'll win on the day.
I'm really excited at the prospects of Caleb Ewan, and his time could come tomorrow in stage 2. But I'm hearing some reports, and maybe either of you could talk about this, that Caleb certainly is in fighting fit condition, but there's talk that his team may not have the firepower to carry him to stage wins. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I just don't know if they're not really taking a team for Caleb, which is surprising. I feel a little bit sad for Caleb. It felt like off the Giro, there was a stage there where his team pretty much just left him to fend for himself, and he lost a lot of time and spent 80k by himself, which it wasn't a stage he was going to win, but the next day it could have been a stage he could have won, and he was too tired. And so the thing is with sprinters, I find, is that your team, it's all really good if you're winning. Your team's behind you. They're putting all their pay packets, all of their careers for you to get you to that line. But if you are not winning, that can start to wane, and that belief and energy can start to wane. And why should I be committing myself all day for you if you can't win? And so I think there's some challenges there. And then the relegation that's happening in the cycling as well. Lotto have a huge amount of pressure on them to have the points to still make the World Tour next year, and I think that could be impacting. But I think if Caleb can come out with a win, that will turn everything around very quickly, and we know that once sprinters start winning, they don't stop. So yeah, how about you, Hollywood? What do you reckon?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm just trying to think who the other big sprinters are. Like we know earlier in the week, Cavendish won the UK championship, but he's not going. So I'm trying to think who the big sprinters are. The Green Edge have got the guy with thighs the size of a building. I can't pronounce his name. What's his name? Please help me.
Spell it.
Dylan. Dylan.
Grunewagen. Grunewagen.
Yeah, like he's
from
a good
the Australian team. Yeah.
Green Edge. Yeah, Australian team. So are they called Green Edge? What are they called?
They changed their name from Green Edge back in 2012, Hollywood. Where have you been? Living under a rock?
No. Once Green Edge, always
Okay.
Green Edge.
You know what? That's
it's like in Melbourne. I still call it Telstra Dome.
Just on that, if I can digress or just change the topics ever so slightly, it's a shame that Green Edge is not called Green Edge. I mean, their name has changed over the years, and I'm confused just as much as you are, Hollywood, I've got to say. And that is probably the thing that really irritates me about world cycling. I mean, you look at the football teams around the world, there'll always be a Manchester United, there'll always be a Collingwood, there'll always be a Melbourne Storm, but there's never always a Green Edge or the other teams because of the sponsorship change. That really irritates me.
Yeah, well, it's called Team Bike Exchange, but it's just affectionately known as Green Edge because that's what it first came at. But it's not an Australian team. You think of they've let go so much Australian talent like Jack Haig and obviously Ewan, and there is other Australian talent out there that just don't sign with them like O'Connor and what's his name? He's on the front of the magazine. But yeah, it's funny that you'd want it to be this Australian team full of Australians supported by some Europeans, but unfortunately it's not like that.
Well, I can tell you, when Caleb Ewan won his stages in recent years, there was more support for the Lotto Soudal team than there was for the Australian registered team because there were no Aussies in that team, which is, look, I understand why they select the riders and, it's different courses for different horses, but you'd like to sort of get on the Aussie bandwagon and support your own, but Greenheads don't allow that for some reason. And it's unfortunate. You agree, Tills?
Yeah, I think, look, I certainly, I have sort of business experience on the sponsorship side of things. And I know that to build a fan base and engagement and, have kids going around in their jerseys and, Hollywood's got his Lakers jersey on now, and it doesn't matter who sponsors that every year, they're always going to be the Lakers. And that's what creates, engagement with the audience and drive and passion, and they're your team, which I know cycling struggles enormous with. But that just comes down to money. But I think jumping back to what, you were saying before around the sprinters, it could be, a great news story to see Fabio Jakobsen get up for the points classification. But, Walt Van Aert, can he do it? How many prongs can Jumbo have? And he said he's coming for the green jersey. But, I think if there was to be another comeback similar to Cavendish last year, that would be Peter Sagan. So who knows what he can pull out. A champion like him can't be written off. And, I think he could go all the way. So it'd be interesting. The points classification can sometimes lose a bit of momentum, but I think this year it could be exciting.
I'd love
to see Peter Sagan do well.
Wout is just honestly incredible. Like last year's performance was to win a time trial, to win the King Mountain stage up Mont Ventoux, and then win the King Sprinter stage at in Paris. Like that achievement in itself is just incredible. It just like honestly, that guy is so good.
Yeah, I think if Mark Cavendish isn't going to the tour, teams will be circling for his signing. So, yeah, I can't see him staying at Quick Step, but it looks like he won't be taken at this stage.
Wout's got it all. Good hair, good looking, looks good on a bike, wins any type of stage. Like, I like him. I got a little man crush.
All right, you're listening to the Domestiques. This is our inaugural podcast, our pilot series, if you like. Don't go away.
The Domestics.
Yes, you're listening to the Domestiques. We hope to inform and entertain you, and at a time when the Domestiques crew will be travelling. We are travelling. I'm heading to France in a few days, as I have for the last 26 years, but this time, not as a broadcaster. This time, in my new role as a cycling tour host for Bike Style Tours. And I've got to say, I'm really looking forward to that. I won't have a camera thrusted in my head or a microphone under my nose, but no doubt I'll have a lot of stories to tell, and I'll share them with you over the next 3 weeks. Hollywood, I believe you're jet-setting overseas
yeah,
too?
I'll be starting in the Greek islands and going to Sardinia, then across to Italy to my favourite place in the world, Lake Como, and I'll be making my way around, and I'll end up in France to watch a stage of the tour as well. So, yeah, I'll be over there as well.
Now, the Greek islands, you're up over there for a reason, aren't you? Tell us about who you're taking and why.
I'm taking Alison because we got married in December last year, so this is our belated honeymoon. So we'll both have our bikes and, we'll be overseas riding. It should be good. And then she comes back and starts her new role as CEO of Bicycle Network, which is a massive role for her. So there's lots going on in the Hollywood household at the moment.
That's pretty exciting, isn't it,
Yeah.
for Alison to get that gig? And has she given you any hints to what she plans to do? Any changes?
No, she.
What can you tell us?
No, I'll tell. I leak everything. Don't worry. You'll hear it first here. No, honestly, she's still at her old job, but she's having meetings and talking to people. She's doing a lot. So I haven't really seen her a lot. She's always working at night, doing a sort of already started. She's going to hit the ground running, so it's exciting for her. It's really good.
Chills, what are your plans as we weave our way through this inaugural series?
Yeah, while we're here just trying to stay on the ground with the people, experiencing winter, just to keep you guys a little bit grounded on what's happening back home. Obviously, I've just gotten back from Europe. I did the annual pilgrimage that many Australian cyclists sort of have to go through in racing in Belgium and the Netherlands. I've successfully come back in pretty much one piece. So I'll be here on the ground for the next few weeks trying to get the wee sort of highlights each day. It was incredible to be over there during the Giro and for Jai Hindley and to be watching that live every afternoon. There's nothing like it. We as Australians really experience the Tour de France very differently to the Europeans. It's late nights, it's drinking wine or catching up on the highlights the next morning, but there's nothing like watching it for free to air, over there or being on the ground. So I'm going to be living through osmosis through you guys. And so, hopefully we'll be able to get a real feel for what it's like being over there through you.
Chills, tell us, you were in the Netherlands when the Giro was on. Did you manage to pull up a chair in a bar or a coffee lounge or a cafe? What's the following like in the Netherlands for the Italian Grand Tour?
It's just it's nothing like Australia or New Zealand or anything like back home. It is their football. It is our AFL. What it is over there. It is on every TV. It is in the newspapers. It is leading the story, and to be over there watching it and to have an Australian leading, everyone was very excited to talk to me as an Australian about the Giro and share with what was going on. So it's cycling is their religion over there. It is. I'm scared to go out in the roads here because over there in the Netherlands, if I get hit, no matter what, it was the car's fault.
Wow.
It's just incredible, and you see these families, the mobility that they get around. I saw pretty much newborns in the front of bicycles, and the way these large families just get around by bike. And so, yeah, you go over there and you race women who have been literally born on cobbles, and so it does feel like you're starting 10k back, but it's a great experience, and I can guarantee women's cycling and the men's obviously is truly alive and well, and just incredible support over there. So it's a great vibe.
What blew me away when I was in the Netherlands in 2015 when I saw Rowan Dennis win that prologue time trial was the fact that people were telling me in the Netherlands the Dutch learn to ride a bike before they can walk. And you've seen the bike stations there, the multi-story towers. They're not filled with motor vehicles. They're filled with bicycle two-wheel machines. Some of them are brand new. Most of them are rusted. And well, not so much rusted, but they're not brand spanking $10,000 jobs. They come quite cheaply compared to the two-wheel machines that we might ride over here. It's a different culture, Tills. You're so right. And it's interesting how cycling is first and everything else is second.
Tell me something, Tills. Over there with the families, does everyone wear helmets or is it different?
No, I was a bit of a weirdo. I was pretty much one of the only people with the helmet on
Wow.
out riding. A few people who are dressed up in Lycra and on their road bikes have a helmet, but I didn't ride on the actual road once when I was over there, apart from racing, obviously. And so essentially because the country is so small but has as many people as Australia in there, but, and so it's... there's no space to build more car lanes, and so they have these bike lanes that are pretty much the farmers' lanes as well. And and so no, like 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, no one's wearing a helmet, but it's all extremely safe because the cars have to give way no matter what. And as Mike said, they learn to crawl, then they learn to ride their bike, and then they learn to skate for the winter, and they go from there. And so
cool.
Yeah, it's just the mobility over there is incredible. It's quite scary when I'm sure when they travel to Australia and the aggression that we feel, the fights. Still fights going on, and so I'm excited. Ali working in the role that she is, that's literally their role, is to fight for cyclists and infrastructure.
When they build bridges over there, Hollywood, there are 8 lanes, but not 8 lanes for cars. There are 2 lanes for pedestrians, 2 lanes for light rail, 2 lanes for cars, 1 each way, and 2 lanes for bikes.
Wow.
The bridges might be as wide as the bridge you have in Melbourne there. What is it? The West Gate.
West Gate, yeah.
But only 1 lane each way for cars. That's the different mindset in a country like the Netherlands.
Very different. We get 30 centimetres and it's filled with broken glass if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or a parked
on
car.
Beach Road.
So
Well, listen,
Yeah.
I like the makeup of the domestiques. I think we complement each other. I'd like to think that I attract an older audience, an older demographic. I might be wrong. Tills, I think you perhaps attract the younger
Everybody.
set, the pro racing, the pro racing. Yeah, everybody. And Hollywood, I'm not so sure.
I don't know who I attract.
Who's your target audience?
swings both ways.
I don't know. I don't know. I actually don't know.
I'm very much looking forward to learning from you guys, and you guys both have such a rich history for the sport as well, and a passion. So I'm looking forward to hearing a few stories and what was like back then, and then certainly hopefully talking about the future. So I really look forward to it.
No, it's going to be great, and it's going to be a great race. It's just honestly, I'm going on about it, but I can't wait. Everyone's there. I can't wait to see the battle between Jumbo and UAE. It is going to be, and then obviously the Aussies. It's going to be red hot. I can't wait.
This is The Domestics, presented by Blacksheepcycling.
Well, there you have it. Our first episode of the Domestics is out of the way. By the way, I just want to ask you all, is it a reasonable title? What do you think, Hollywood? The Domestics.
I'm certainly no GC leader. Just because I wear yellow doesn't mean I'm in yellow. Domestics, I'll take that. That's fine.
Tills, you're our team leader. Are you happy with the support crew?
Oh yeah, I'll have a few orders throughout, but yeah, it's a good start.
Well, look, we urge you, wherever you're listening, to get in touch with us for any feedback, any topics that you may want us to touch on. Our aim is to invite special guests on the show. And a reminder, you can load a fresh episode every day during the Tour de France, which ends on July the 24th. Hope you enjoyed episode 1. We'll be back very, very soon for episode 2 in 24 hours for the team. I'm Mike Tomalaris. We'll speak to you tomorrow.
The Domestics by Blacksheepcycling.